Streaming on YouTube is so stressful. It's so freaking stressful. Oh yeah, it can take me an hour to do. And they were like, wow, that's a lot. And I was like, pretty normal. Like that's what a thumbnail should take. But like I can do it in like 2 minutes if you want me to, but I don't want to take, like. I don't know you. Oh, in double perspective. Double PMP. The reality of the internet is like so. Like there's some. I mean, the thing is, like, I will be. Okay. Usually, yeah, actually, okay. Oh. Oh my god. I swear to God. I swear to God that YouTube chat is going to be the death of me. Cause I hate that it doesn't appear. But whatever. I'm like, why don't you appear? But yeah, no, I get it. Actually, no, I don't get it. It is confusing and stressing. But what are we to do? Hi, hello, hi, welcome. Hi, Toik. It's like I want to call you March, and I know that I can't call you March. But it's like, you're not March, you're Toik in this dimension. Like, we're in another dimension. We're not on Twitch. So it's like, March doesn't exist anymore. It's Toik. But yeah. But yeah. Hi, John Sheena, welcome. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Today we'll have a very special guest, a guest that I've been eager to have since the day I remember that they were queer, and I thought, oh yeah, I should invite them, and then I started writing down the questions that I had for them, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna lie, I'm almost more excited to have critical A theory than to have a sure, because we just like it's like I have learned so much from their streams, from critical A theory streams, and I'm just excited. I'm just genuinely so excited and pumped to be talking to them today, and that and sorry, I keep looking here because I have two cameras for today. because when I have guests with camera, I set up another camera here because I cannot, because here's my Discord, and I already set up the Discord camera for my guests. So to not have the mishap that we had yesterday with the shore. But yeah, that okay. That but yeah. Okay, let me go. I will. It's supposed to be a soft C sound, by the way. Toys, toy, like toy or toys. What do you mean a soft C sound? Like toys? Like the Russian C that is an S? Or I'm currently watching both of your streams. Well, it's so confusing. Look, it's okay. I just shared their stream to, so that people know that they are also streaming, so that people also subscribe to them. But yeah, like it's okay. Like if you just want to watch me, if you just want to watch them, you are totally fine. Toy. Oh, how is that a C? That's clearly a TS. Taylor Swift. No, but like hello, but whatever. But yeah. Before I go through what you were talking about like rural communities and in socialist countries, first of all, yesterday I had like a mini panic attack about traveling, and I was like, oh my god, I will never like try Peruvian stuff ever again in my life, even though I will probably come back, whatever, but and I'm not really that attached to Peruvian food. Like I say that, and then I'll going to travel and move abroad, and then I'll regret all my life decisions. But regardless, yesterday I had a mini crisis, and and so I bought kind of like a lot of snacks. Not that late at night, but like around 8 p.m., which is pretty late to be buying snacks, in my opinion. So, like, I bought a lot of snacks and ate them all. And then my stomach today, when I woke up, was like, you shouldn't have done that. And yeah, but regardless, I also bought this called Sun Kissed Orange. And this is my official review because I have never tried this. This is a US study poppy. I like calling them study poppies because I know that some parts of the US call it soda, others call it soda pop, and others like only pop. And I'm like, and I'm pretty sure there are some that even call it like they have other weird names, but I just combine them all and make them cute, and I will just call them Saudi Poppy. But yeah, so yeah, it tastes like Fanta basically, but with a slightly more tangy flavor, I want to say. Like it's slightly sourer. This is slightly more sour, but not in a bad way. Like it has the fake, not the fake. How do I call it? Like the citrusy flavor of the orange comes through more, and I don't know if it's just because there's like more. What do you call it? Like citric acid. Because look, like it says water, high fructose corn syrup, and the third is citric acid. So that's like interesting. That's where the acidic flavor comes from. But yeah, it was definitely like I feel like how do I explain it? I feel like Fanta is a little more sugary, if I'm not like, yeah, I feel like this is a little bit lighter than Fanta, which is interesting because I like Fanta, but that's the thing. It's like I feel like on paper this tastes better, but also it's like different. But I don't know. But yeah, so that's my official review or of Sunkissed. I don't know why I want to add an R, but Sunkissed orange flavor. So yeah, um, and yeah, yeah. There are also areas that call all soda Coke. Oh, that is true. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Nothing's made Fanta because the US wouldn't give them Coke. Interesting. I didn't know the US wouldn't give them Coke, but also like, what? Was there no Coca-Cola already in Europe? Like, was all Coke being produced in the US and being like transported, like exported to Europe? You know what I mean? Like, and also it is very interesting that you mentioned that because it kind of proves how like the US is has always been run by companies, and it's like, what do you mean this private company didn't want to? You know what I mean? But yeah. Yeah, German Coca-Cola company made Fanta under sanctions. Oh, interesting. Interesting. But yeah, okay. Let's go to 7 minutes. Hell yeah. Hell no. Oh my god. Um I thought just looking into how China and the liberty are treating their urban communities. Yeah, I was thinking about China yesterday because I think the process in which they are. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know how much they are. I don't want to say forcing, but like they are actively taking steps to close that divide because from what I know, like lately there has been a shift where there was a lot of basically migration from rural areas to urban areas, and it has and China has reached a point where urban areas have been very saturated, and so there's a new wave going on where like youth or like young adults, like people in their late 20s, more or less, early 30s, are going back to their rural areas because they can work there, and that's like a shift that is going on, and it also helps that like China is not kind of like, again, it's not about like forcing people. It's not like actively incentivizing people to go back to rural areas, but rather China is just trying to improve rural areas because of the needs that people have. And so I think it's interesting how like those contradictions are kind of naturally balancing out through socialist development, and that doesn't mean that there are not other like contradictions arising or other problems or mistakes or etc. that can occur in all these processes. But I was thinking how interesting it is that these are like this particular contradiction is being taken care of naturally because of how in a socialist system the government is trying to make people's lives better inherently, you know. So yeah, I was thinking about that when you mentioned it. um So yeah, and I was thinking about how like, oh yeah, and Ashur was talking about the USSR, and it was very interesting because it kind of truly showcased how the USSR had a lack of theory development and were not and I see that a lot of Bolsheviks were not truly aware of the contradictions happening in Russia, in like all across Russia, as in rural Russia, like the peasantry, etc. And so it's it's interesting now looking back to see how like, oh yeah, of course you were kind of just like telling the farmers, oh, whatever surplus you give us, it's going to go for the rest of the people, you know? And it's like, yeah, of course they're not going to be necessarily incentivized to do that, to farm more, because they have not like had any revolutionary education. They still haven't had like a change of consciousness in that sense. And so yeah, they're still with the um, aristocratic, individualist, czarist thinking, to call it, to put it in a way, like, you know, ultimately it's just liberalism. But um, and so yeah, I was very intrigued by what Ashur was mentioning about the Soviet Union, early Soviet Union. But yeah, um, yeah. China is integrating rural places through building infrastructure to better connect them, so it's easier to get travel for local and also commerce with them. Oh yeah, that is true, right? Like, I mean, and that is interesting because it is all part of just like developing a better system for people and for actual economic development in general, because it's not even just about like, you inherently need good ways of mobilization if you want that kind of exportation basically to happen. Like, if you want like the food from rural that is planted in rural areas to get to the cities, then you need good traveling infrastructure. So it just makes sense that China, or that a country, builds good transportation infrastructure, and that will not just help literally the economy but also like people. And because it is also helping people and the economy, it will like be closing that gap of the contradiction between rural and city contradiction. But yeah, to converse with them, and also because now it is easier to connect the two places, then people are going to start seeing each other. I think like, will like rural people and city people will start seeing each other not just more often, but because they see each other more often, it's going to be like those relationships will be normalized and more common, and that will help like, again, like close the gap between the contradictions that arise of them seeing themselves as different from each other, and they're just going to, you know, get used to being with one another, seeing, oh yeah, you're just another worker, you just happen to be working in agriculture and I happen to be working in an office job or whatever. And so, you know, but yeah, um, while DPRK is trying to provide rural communities with the same access to services as are available in cities. Yeah, the thing that is interesting is that the DPRK, because of the history of the DPRK, they had to kind of develop the access for rural communities like more. I don't want, not necessarily like more quickly, but definitely like as more of a priority, because of how like distraught the conditions were after the Korean War, or well, the Korean War is still going on, but you know what I mean. So like the DPRK had the necessity to attend to everyone basically, um, because fuck, like 3 million, like a million people, 3 million people died because of the U.S. and like that's such a huge hit on your population, and so you need to help them in order to help your country, like. But yeah, quite difficult because so much is concentrated in Pyongyang. Yes and no, like there is a level of concentration of resources in Pyongyang, in the sense that Pyongyang is like one of the biggest cities. So it's like proportionally there is going to be more resources going to Pyongyang than the rest of the country. But from my understanding, like the DPRK knows, like is very like has always tried to very proportionally attend to all of their populace, to all of their people. So yeah, uh, but again, like due to the own history of the DPRK, like it makes sense that there will be a certain level of concentration of resources in Pyongyang, given that there is more population there. But it's just like yeah, there are more people in New York City, so New York is going to get more resources than freaking Alabama, like it's just proportional distribution kind of thing. But yeah, I'm not as familiar with. I know that like I would be so intrigued to learn about Lao, because I know Lao is very like agricultural centric, and so is Vietnam. But Vietnam has kind of, I see Vietnam as very similar to Cuba, as in like the awareness of the agricultural industry has always existed and been there. And so like I don't know if there was like the divide that existed was as stark in the first place, and I guess in Korea it could be similar, but I'm not sure, because even then, like the most of the industry in the north was non food related industry, so I think it's not, but I don't know. But even that, but again, like going back to Cuba and Vietnam, like uh Vietnam was known to it's known to this day to produce rice, and Cuba was known to produce a lot of sugar cane. And so like I feel like people having that understanding that these are the things of why their country is known, these are the main industries in these countries, I feel like people had more of a consciousness about like the agricultural industry's role in their lives and as in the economy as a whole, I would say. But this is just me like kind of speculating based on what I know, so I cannot say that that is exactly what has happened. But I'm just saying like I that is just the idea that I have based on what I've studied about Cuba and what I know about Vietnam through Luna Oi. But yeah, it's supposed to be a soft. Oh, sorry. Soda Coke. Yeah, German Coca-Cola company made Fanta under sanctions. There was a German Fanta ad for the anniversary that was like, "Don't you wish the good old days?" That was taken down pretty quickly. Hello? When they said good old days, did they mean? There's also sending party cadres to help locals solve their problems. Oh, are you talking about China or the PRK? Because I know in China it is Like they do that basically, but yeah. But I think, no, but that's another thing, right? Like, I know that in Cuba and in China, like that's the system where like there are cadres in every region basically, and so like they are directly connected with the Communist Party, and so like the Communist Party can know what resources each region or each place needs. So in that sense, yeah, after the fall of the USSR here, a lot of rural areas became abandoned and there is a lot of migration to cities. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah. In China now you can order things straight from the farmers. Yeah. Oh, okay. Of
Okay, so
the
let me. Hello.
hello. Oh my god. Yes.
All right, let me change my scene so that way chat can see you too. And I'm still getting used to my YouTube setup.
Yes.
So
No, it took me a while. It is
yeah,
weird. It is not as easy
yeah,
as Twitch.
yeah. It's so annoying. Like they made me. No, it's not that. It's there we go.
It is
All right, now I
working.
need a. It's cropped weird, so let me uncrop it. Just a second, chat.
Oh my god. Okay.
And then I need to add my YouTube chat as well. This is just.
Don't even get me started with YouTube chat. It's such a look. I love Twitch as much as the next person. I will always bleed purple no matter what.
Exactly.
But also,
But yeah, but also.
but also, yeah.
What?
DBRK too. I mean, people can even go to them with personal problems. Oh, interesting. I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, I know that that is the system that most socialist countries have developed. But yeah.
And then I can turn my camera on. Okay, cool. And then, rare case of YouTube functioning. Seriously. That works. All right. Okay, I should be good. So yeah. Whenever you're
Okay.
ready to start.
We have a cat in chat. Okay. Give me a second. Hi. Wait, no. Am I muted? Yes, I'm muted. Hi.
Hey,
We have a cat in chat with us.
nice. I'm gonna turn you up slightly. That should be better.
Silencing brown voices. I like to see it.
Actually, I'm raising your voice.
Yeah, because you had already lowered it, clearly.
No, it was already up a little bit, but then OBS was showing it as a little bit quieter than mine, so I wanted to make them
Oh,
about
okay.
level.
But yeah. Oh my god. Hi. Okay, you've told me that I can call you Kate. And I
If you
like
want.
yeah, but cause like I don't know how to call you, cause critical A theory is a little long, and cat feels a little impersonal.
I mean, most people call me Cat these days anyway.
Really? No.
Like, it's taking over even offline.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, like, okay, fine. I'll just go with cat, but it feels weird.
But for anyone watching my stream who doesn't know Sebs already, this is Sebs. It is another streamer who also streams on Twitch, who you should follow once it's no longer banned.
Yeah, look, it's only for 30 days, but still, I know it's going to be the longest 30 days of my life.
I know.
Uh,
And it's like the most inconvenient timing too.
Literally, just look, the first thing that I thought about when I got the email that I was banned was like the interviews. And
Yeah.
and the worst part is like I like the interviews for this week, like assured you and Adrienne are the ones that I'm the most excited for because I like it, I was like nah. But yeah. Yeah, no. Hi, thank you. Oh my god. And I am so appreciative that you also like wanted to stream and like made all of these you are streaming on YouTube for me. I'm like
Well,
I love
the other side of this is if I ever get banned, now I know how to do this.
Yeah, no, really. Like it took me because I did a test stream like um before the first interview that I had on YouTube and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like a lot like I need to create
Yeah.
like a new video and like setting it up. I need to schedule it sometimes. I mean, you don't have to, but like
Yeah, I didn't schedule it. I was just like, okay, go live. I need my stream key. Let's go. I
yeah,
actually went live on Twitch first and dropped my YouTube channel link several times in my Twitch chat. Because, I mean, like, of all my social medias, I actually have the most followers on Twitch.
yeah,
And I have 6 YouTube subscribers. So, like, because
yeah.
I have
No,
one video.
I know I haven't taken care of my YouTube either so much, so I'm like, yeah, no. And the worst, like for example, yesterday in the middle of the interview, someone in my Discord was like, "Is that live? I don't see its channel
I know,
on
I
Twitch,"
saw
and I was
that.
like, "Yeah, I'm like
Like,
bad."
yeah, on YouTube, follow the link that was linked in announcements.
Yeah. No,
So
but
like I
I
put in
love
my
Kay.
announcements. I
Yeah,
put on all of my announcements. I'm live on YouTube. I usually just say I'm live.
yeah. Right? Yeah. But yeah, no. Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. Okay, let's start. Kat, how do
Okay.
you identify in regards to
Um,
gender, sexuality, politically, nationality, whatever you want? But yeah.
all right. I mean, there's a lot of intersecting identities, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So my sexuality first, just because that's the first one on the list. I identify as aroace, that's aromantic asexual. So that's
Mm-hmm.
sexual orientation and romantic orientation, both. And I imagine we're going to get into that in more detail later on.
Yeah.
Similarly, with gender, I identify as non binary. I'll often use trans mask as well. But like, I definitely wouldn't call myself a trans man. It's kind of like in that
Mm-hmm.
gray area.
Yeah. No,
Uh, but
I am there with
yeah,
you. I am there with you.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm trans mask, but I'm not like a man because I'm non-binary, but
Yeah,
nah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but again, we're gonna get more into that later
Mhm.
on, I'm sure. Political labels. It really depends. The label that I use really depends on who I'm talking to, honestly.
Mhm.
Uh, I mentioned this a little bit in chat, or like when I was streaming before we joined the call. Because the one person chatting right now is asking about U.S. politics a little bit, but like, so if I am talking to someone with similar politics to me, I will say that I'm a communist.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell the average American that you're a communist, they think you're for like state oppression and whatever. They picture fascism. So
Yeah.
if I'm talking to the average American or even most American leftists, I don't call myself a communist
Interesting.
because, yeah. So it really depends on my audience. Oftentimes, I'll keep it looser. I'll say, I typically don't say socialist. I'll say leftist. I'll say progressive. Like these sorts of things, depending on who my audience is. If I'm talking to a much more normie audience, I'll say progressive. If I'm talking to like maybe more like American leftists, I'll say leftist. And then we'll get into like specific policies to talk about what I actually believe rather than putting a label on it. Because I find that that does more than just labeling it. Because again, the label distracts people and people will put their own impressions of whatever label means.
Yeah, I have found like interacting with so many people in the US, I have found that like a label gets so much baggage, and I personally dislike it because I like using labels to be like accurate with things and descriptions, and like I can like I don't know, I would say like back when I would identify as Marxist Leninist, I knew that I couldn't say that because people would have a certain perception of that.
Yeah.
And I would have to be like, but I'm also intersectional and for queer liberation and feminist and this and that. I was like, and now even now that I go by decolonial scientific socialist, which is like pretty accurate and specific, but still like then people are like asking what does that mean and this and that, and I'm like, look, let me tell you about the history of socialism.
Yeah, I tend to just keep it as like umbrella, like just the umbrella term leftist or progressive. Like these are kind of like Venn diagram terms as well. So like I'm kind of both. But yeah.
Yeah. And how did you come up with your name? Wait, okay. It kind of happened in my chat, so you're welcome, but
wait, I thought it was Sen's rules.
No. Oh wow.
What?
No, actually it could have been. I just know that I was present in the chat
Sen's.
that happened.
I think you were in chat at the time. So yeah, so we're gonna get into this part later. My previous Twitch name was Alden's Law, which most of you watching probably don't know, but that is a Vosh reference because I used to watch Vosh. I don't anymore. And I was like, hey, I don't watch Vosh anymore. People are giving me shit for no reason. And I also want to start streaming. So I need to change my name, but I don't know what to change it to. And I was asking chat for suggestions. And then someone, I don't remember who it was, but someone suggested. I don't think it was Minnie, but a bunch of people were suggesting good ace puns.
Yeah.
And someone came up with critical ace theory. And I was like, that's great. I'm using that. So I changed my name, and that's what it's been ever since. And then like, it abbreviates to cat, which is great. I love cats. And it works as a name too, so it's perfect.
No, but like I do distinctly remember that there was one time, because I didn't know that your dead name used to was a Ian reference. And like I remember I was talking about Ian being like reactionary and someone being like, well, Alden's Law is a reference to Ian. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you were like, yes it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do.
And I was like, oh, I'm betrayed. But you were like, no, but I don't. I like you were like
I'm
getting out of
reformed.
that. Yeah, you were already
Yeah,
getting out of that
I was
community.
already out of that by then.
Yeah. But
One
yeah.
of my chatters wants to know where your name comes from.
It's like it's like my name and my last name, but with letters. So my real name is Sebastian. So Seb
Mhm.
comes from that, and then Dev is part of my last name, but I just didn't want to
We
use
only
my
get the
last
three
name.
letters of
So
your last
yeah,
name.
yeah, and no, I'm not Indian. No, I'm not a developer. Thank you very much for asking. No, yeah, cause like I at the beginning when I was starting streaming on Twitch, like there were a
Mhm.
couple of people that came into my chat asking if I was Indian, and I was like,
Mhm.
no, I know it's a common last name, but no, and I hadn't even thought of that before people
Mhm.
asked me about that, but yeah,
Mhm.
that's my name. Not that interesting. Well, and I love the letter C, so yeah, that's why. It's, but yeah, whatever. How would you describe the environment where you grew up in regards to open-mindedness and politics?
I mean, so I grew up in the US, so that's obviously not going to be like the furthest left. But that
Mm-hmm.
being said, I grew up in Connecticut, which
Mm.
like it has a bit of a reputation for like being affluent. It is the state with the number one most economic inequality. Fun fact.
Interesting.
Because people think of Connecticut as like New York City suburbia, which like yeah, part of Connecticut is because it
Interesting.
borders New York and it's right
Mm-hmm.
next to the city. That part of Connecticut, but if you're by the part that I'm in, like I went in and out of Hartford all the time, and like depending on what part of Hartford, usually I'd go through West Hartford, getting into Hartford,
Mm-hmm.
which is like there's like everyone's really rich, they have their mansions and stuff, and then you get into Hartford, and it's like there's a lot of poor people. You're
Oh,
good. So it's like
interesting.
a lot of yeah, depending on the part of Hartford, there's a lot of like really poor people, and it's similar in many of our other cities in Connecticut as well. So there's that respect. We're also known typically as one of the more left leaning states, which doesn't mean much. Again, it's the US.
Oh, it's
So
like
this is
very
like
blue.
Democrat.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So these are people who are
Oh,
voting
that left.
Democrat. Yeah. Like this is left by American standards.
Got it.
um, so like these are people who are like the most left is like a little bit progressive, like your liberal progressives typically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one thing more recently that Connecticut did, this was a couple years ago, but they were the first state to basically like make it illegal for anyone to prosecute if someone comes to Connecticut for an abortion. And then a bunch of states copied that. So like
Oh.
since Roe v. Wade was overturned,
Mm-hmm.
there's some states that have made it illegal to get an abortion. And Connecticut, it's legal. You can go there, you can like
Mm-hmm.
take a vacation to Connecticut and get your abortion, and no
Got
one can
it.
prosecute by
Oh,
Connecticut
nice.
law.
Got it. Oh,
Yeah, so
interesting.
that's really good.
Yes.
Um but like again, this shouldn't have to be a thing
Yeah.
because America sucks. So it was a little bit further right when I was a kid. Um
Hmm.
but like it was like better than the American average kind of thing.
Was your family more right-leaning?
No, my family, it's funny. Seaweeds met my parents. He
Mm-hmm.
describes my mom as like a good NPR mom. She listens to NPR, which is like,
Interesting.
she
I
was,
picture that.
yeah. So they're definitely both liberals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my mom is definitely closer to being like she's more like sock dem territory. So
Got
like
it.
definitely liberal,
Mm-hmm.
but like if you're in the US, that's pretty good.
Yeah. She would have voted
Uh,
for Bernie. She probably
yeah,
voted for Bernie.
she has voted for Bernie twice. My
Yeah.
dad has voted for Bernie once.
Oh.
And the first time Bernie ran, the only reason he didn't was because he wanted to vote against Trump in the primary.
Oh.
So,
Fine.
so it's like,
Fine.
okay, of all of the not voting for Bernie decisions he could have made, this is probably best case scenario, but still
Like,
not
yeah.
great.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's more or less the like political environment. My mom was also
Mhm.
very much pro like being able to think critically through your own political choices too, which of course got her to very far left kids.
Interesting. Oh, you have siblings?
Yeah, I have one sibling.
And are they also a communist?
They don't call themselves a communist. They are also non-binary
Oh, got
and
it.
also on the ace and arrow spectrums. And they're
Interesting.
definitely a leftist, although yeah, again, they haven't really gotten into theory.
Mhm.
I gave them A People's Guide to Capitalism, which is why I don't have my copy of the book anymore,
Mhm.
because they still haven't finished it.
Mhm.
Which was a couple years ago that I gave them that, but I'm still holding out hope
Give
that they're
them
reading it. And
give them give them some Kim Il Sung book to read.
I'm gonna wait for them to finish A People's Guide to Capitalism before I get them anything else more extreme. Like
Yeah,
you got to know the
fair.
basics before you get the
Mhm.
more advanced stuff.
Yeah, oh, interesting. And like, are your parents like aware of your radical edge?
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
we've thought about it.
As you
Like
do,
nothing
yeah.
crazy, but like
As you do.
yeah, as you do. There's definitely parts of it that they agree with. A lot of the
Mhm.
time, unless I say anything like radical or seemingly violent, they'll
Mhm.
probably agree with it.
Mm.
Like if I say trans rights, great. If I say something like, "Oh, we should have free healthcare,"
Mhm.
um, but if I say uh, even
Nationalize
stuff
all
like
industry.
yeah, if I say something like that, they're like, well, I don't know if that's such a great idea. Or if I say, maybe Mao was right about something, about those
Oh my
landlords,
god.
they'll be like, I don't think that's a good idea. We shouldn't kill people.
I mean, look, we shouldn't, but some people are beyond saving to put
If
it
I
in.
say revolution, they're like, maybe that's not such a good idea.
That's too violent.
Yeah.
You went to the whatever. Yeah. Interesting. Oh wow. Yeah. I really relate to that. I mean, yeah. But when did you first realize you were queer?
Um, so I guess I mean like more generally queer. Like I
Mm-hmm.
guess I wasn't 100% sure, but it was like young teen kind of age, like 13, 14. I remember like really starting to question.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I didn't really have much knowledge at all at that point. So I was like, am I gay? That doesn't sound right. Maybe I'm just straight, but that doesn't sound right either. And I
Mm.
learned what bi was, and I was like, maybe I'm bi. And then that wasn't really making sense either. So I kind of just went in this loop for a while of like the gay straight bi cycle over and over a few times.
Okay, is this like a normal occurrence with ace people?
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen memes about it, like the bi to ace pipeline sort of thing.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I've seen the reverse too, like the ace to bi
yeah.
as well. So it seems to go both ways. Like the idea of like Well, I like all genders equally. That's all. That's definitely bi, or that's definitely ace, and oh, it's actually the
I
other
like
one.
everyone, so that means I don't like anyone actually.
Yeah, I don't like anyone, so that means I like everyone.
Yeah. Interesting. And how was your coming out process?
So by the time I heard the word ace, learned enough about it, and started identifying as that, I was 20.
Interesting.
So it's quite a while in
Mm-hmm.
that gap. And I didn't come out as non-binary until later either. So I was 20 when I figured that out. And
The arrow
then
ace or just the ace part?
I came out originally as just asexual, but I knew I was aro, but I hadn't really quite like figured out the best words to use to best communicate
Mm-hmm.
my experience to other people. So I've settled now on aro ace just because from my
Mm-hmm.
experience that communicates best what my experience is. Because a lot of the time, especially early on, if I was just coming out as asexual, there would be people who would assume that I was aro, but then there'd also be people who would like assume that I was not aro and like was upset that I couldn't find someone to date who was also ace, which was very much not what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, the reason I'm crying right now is because I'm scared and because you're like the, I don't know, like third or fourth person I'm coming out to ever. Not
Oh
because
wow.
yeah. So it's like early on that I was having this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I can't date anyone because I'm ace. No, I don't want to date anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started adding the arrow part of that, and then that cleared things up a lot. I mean, like people will ask questions like, "What does that mean?" But that's more where that ends up going since
Yeah.
I settled up.
Yeah, it is interesting because when you were describing your identity as arrow ace, like when you said like in the asexual, in the sexuality, and arrow in the romanticism, and it got me thinking like how we should start talking more about like our romantic
Yeah, like the split attraction
identities.
model, it's applicable to
Yeah,
literally anyone. It's not just an ace or arrow thing.
yeah, because sometimes like I've thought about what if I'm like homosexual but bi-romantic or bisexual but homoromantic or things like that, and like sometimes I question
Totally
that
could
maybe
be.
I'm just and then I go back, no, maybe I'm just ace. No,
Could be
but
any of those. Only you
yeah,
can come up with the right answer to that.
yeah, but it is something that I like generally ponder sometimes, and I'm like, it is very like it doesn't help that we don't have that conversation, that conversation is not normalized, that we don't talk about like the sexuality and the romantic aspect of things, because it is so like ingrained
The
into us that
idea is that
both
you
of them are the
experience,
same basically. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And that
yeah, it's
both
kind
of
of
them
like
are like
that,
inherent, and so
like
that's
they're
not the
dependent on
reality.
each other, and
Yeah.
they're not. Like they can be totally separate, even if you're like alloromantic and allosexual, and like you're, even if you're like biromantic, bisexual,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily experience attraction in the same way every single
Hmm.
time, and like you might experience one but not the other for a specific person.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you made me now think, what if I'm like pansexual but omniromantic? And it's like very specific thing, but it's like I think I'm kind of that because like both of them are like within the bi umbrella but
Mhm.
function differently. But this is me. I will think about this later. Okay. But but yeah, oh, and when did you like kind of discover non-binariness?
So I mean earlier on, I guess I was thinking more about like sexuality and like romantic orientation. But then as I got more comfortable in that, I started realizing more and more that the reason I didn't really relate to other women was not just because I wasn't interested in sex or dating or specifically in men. It was deeper than that. So it was like a gender difference, not just like a sexual orientation, romantic orientation, dating experience type difference. So I started trying things out a little bit. The first thing I did, I started trying out any all pronouns online just to see what different pronouns felt like. And then I started trying to dress a little bit more masculine, which felt good. I much prefer wearing a binder to having boobs.
Interesting. Fun.
I've always disliked having boobs. And I never understood why people were so obsessed with them. And then I realized, oh, it's because they get like gender euphoria from them. What?
Interesting.
Get rid of mine.
I mean, yeah, got it. Interesting.
But yeah, and then I started looking more into that. And then I started identifying as non-binary, and I started using any all pronouns IRL as well. And then what I found was that a lot of the time people would just sort of default to she, her. So like they'd see me, put me in the woman box, basically. Even if they knew like on an intellectual level that I was non-binary, it was kind of like they could just skip over that. And just she, her, me anyway. So I started going by exclusively they, them, which has definitely helped. Most people can get that, at least where I am. Most people get it. I mean, sometimes people will correct themselves, but I mean, you expect that.
Oh, this is something that I was talking with Lumi about, because they've said that if it was for them, they would use like any all pronouns. Like they like using neo pronouns a lot also, but because people tend to just default to she, her for them, like they're like, I'd rather just use they, them and all neo pronouns and no binary pronouns than have that like openness for people to just default to the binary. So yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And when was like all of this? Like the non-binary part?
This was more like, how old was I at this point? When I think I was like 23 when I first started trying to figure this out. So I was definitely much older at this point. I might have even been 24.
Yeah. And how has transition looked like? And how have you been able to assert your identity to yourself? Because like sometimes I struggle with like asserting my non-binariness to myself. And like I feel like the as time has gone on, I've like become more comfortable with like however I present, and still being like I'm still non-binary regardless, but it's been still a process, so I wanted to know about your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at least in terms of like my like sex assigned at birth, like that sort of thing, the way I present is typically decently different from that. So like there's inherently some sort of transness to like the way I present. That being said though, like I feel like a lot of the time I'm kind of like pushed to go like reach past what I'm aiming for, because like for instance, like I've been on T for like over a year now.
Mm.
And still, a lot of the time, people will just default to she, her, you know?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Uh, so I mean, I think it's a lot of the like the idea in especially a lot of trans circles that if you're
Mm-hmm.
NT, you just like automatically pass after a couple months, which is total bullshit. Look at me. um, uh, so yeah, there's that, and I do feel like I definitely have to go like way more towards the mask side of things than I probably feel comfortable. So
Oh,
there's that
interesting.
inherent gender nonconformity. Um, but yeah, I feel like hopefully I'll be able to pass a little bit more so I can even go back to presenting a little bit more femme sometimes if I want and
Got it.
not feel
Oh,
like I'm
interesting.
just going to be like totally she, her constantly.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, the thing is, like, I've met you when you were. I met you before T, right? Because I feel like
Yeah.
I've met you with a higher pitch voice, but
Yeah, I started
like,
streaming with a higher
mhm.
voice. If you look
But
at a lot
like,
of my older clips.
I've always thought of you as like they them, and I remember
Mhm.
the first time when your voice was getting, um, what is it called? Like deeper,
Lower.
yeah,
Yeah.
lower,
Or deeper, either
and
way.
yeah, and I was like, oh, they're being non-binary now. Like I didn't know you if you had started T or you had
Mhm.
just like started like playing around with your voice. But either way, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, they're like more non-binary now. And it's interesting because like I see you and I still I like it's like I've always like kind of perceived you as non-binary. Like you say, oh, look at me, I don't pass, and I'm like you like I feel like I could see you and you could I could very well assume that you were a man if I didn't know you were non-binary. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So in that sense, it's very interesting and it is kind of like fucked how you feel like you have to go to the other extreme in order to then go back because you know
Yeah.
how like the people's perceptions are not going to be like but yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
I mean, I think a
wow.
lot of it is also that like online you don't really see this, but
Hmm.
if you meet me in person, I'm only 5 feet tall, which is very short even for women, at
Hmm.
least in the US. Uh, so like people see that, and especially since I mean, like I look kind of young. Like there's a lot of the time I could just be a kid, but also uh, I'm not. So if you are short and unless you look very masked,
Hmm.
then people will just assume woman if they don't assume kid.
I'm sorry, I'm like imagining a short cis man that is not like hyper masculine and people still go, oh, you're a woman.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or it's maybe not like hyper masculine, but like
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
clearly
yeah.
has facial hair, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like I've recently gone through like not a change necessarily, but like I shaved. Like I like shaving, but for the action of it, not necessarily for the result. Like I've always been kind of ambivalent to whether I'm shaved or not. But the last time I shaved, I looked in the mirror and I was like I got like almost like dysphoria. And I was like, oh, I don't. Ugh. And now since then I've been like kind of scared of fully shaving because it's like, oh wow, I'm like very comfortable in that part of my masculinity kind of thing, but I'm like, Yeah, but even then, like I love having no long nails. I love painting them. I love like I mean, to be fair, more than just the femininity of long nails. It's just that I think having long nails is helpful and useful for everyday life, even if it's just scratching my neck or my back, whatever. It's like I love it, but yeah, I don't know what I was going to do with that, but like
Mhm.
being non-binary is it's such a roller coaster, and being always like it's like having to be aware of how people perceive you in a gendered way, like kind of 24/7.
Yeah, and it's like people are trying so hard to put you in binary boxes.
Hmm.
So like a lot of it is just like getting to a point where they can't decide which one to put you in.
Yeah, and it's
And
like
that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And yeah.
yeah, and it's weird. It's like I feel like in some like progressive spaces they have like a third box for what non-binary should look like, and
Yeah,
then
but
it's
it's like
like
you're
it's
doing
like
like one box for like an
yeah,
entire spectrum.
yeah, and it's like okay, but I won't fit there either, like because it's like your
Yeah.
perception of how non-binary should look like, and it's like
And
no, I
half the time it's
like
like
yeah.
woman light kind of thing.
Yeah, or like very androgynous to the point where you literally are questioning whether they are human or not.
Yeah.
So yeah. Was there ever like a breaking point where you were like, I hate being perceived as a woman, or I cannot do this
Um,
anymore?
I mean, I guess a lot of it was just like building up once I was especially getting into the working world.
Hmm.
So I started teaching, and so like especially my first job, I had to be, if I was in the classroom, I was expected to be a lot more like formal than I would typically do. Um, so a lot of the time I was doing like skirts and dresses, and that's just because I went thrifting and that's what I found that I could
Hmm.
afford and like all of that, especially on my college student budget that I had at the time when I was shopping for my first job. Uh, so uh,
Damn.
yeah. So yeah, I was wearing that. People were calling me Miss Last Name.
Hmm.
So uh, and I guess at first I kind of figured, okay, I guess I just have to get used to all of this because I've never dressed like this consistently before. I've never been called
Hmm.
Miss consistently before. So I just need to get used to it. And eventually, once I do, it'll be fine. And it just never got fine.
Oh
It was always
wow.
that, yeah, it was just always that feeling of discomfort, like it wasn't right. Um, and like especially with my work clothes, it wasn't even necessarily, even if it was, even if I was wearing something like comfortable
Hmm.
by all other measures, I'd take it off as soon as I got out of the classroom. Basically, as soon as
Oh
I could,
wow.
I
Hmm.
would change. I'd put on jeans or whatever. uh,
Oh wow. I it's like sometimes I sometimes I think like so after school I went to study graphic design, so I've always been part of like the art industry, and so like dressing up has never been like an issue, but sometimes I
mhm.
thought about like, oh, what if I like just studied a boring a boring uh course in a college and became an engineer and started working in an office and had to wear
Or
suits every
business.
day. Yeah, yeah, like something boring. I know it's not boring for the people who study it, but you know what I mean. Like,
I mean, for some of them it is though, because a lot of the time people go into like engineering or business because they're trying to make money.
yeah, and like, and that's the thing, right? Like, I think, what if I had gone to one of these just for the money and had to go to an office and wear suits, and it's like there's a part of me that it's like that like I know that I have idealized it because it's how like life is sold to you, as in like, oh, you have to do this, you need to be successful, etc. You need to make money. But the other part of me is like, I like wearing suits sometimes, but I feel like if I were to be made to wear them every day and not be
Mhm.
like express my
Mhm. And a
non-maleness
lot of the
and
time,
yeah, it's like
especially if you're in like that Wall Street business sort
mhm,
of suit, like you can't really get away with a fun suit, like even like colors or
yeah,
anything either.
yeah, and
I mean,
it's
like
like
I could get away with a little bit more expression based on
mhm.
my thrift store uh, clothing that I got, but like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was just sort of like, okay, I can afford this.
Yeah, and it's so, and on top of that, like that kind of clothing, like kind of forcing you into that extreme, or like in the case of formal clothing, right? Like having to
Hmm.
forcing you into that extreme of like masculinity or whatever. Like,
Yeah, and my issue
mm,
with formal clothing a lot of the time, I've struggled a lot to find something that's like a lot more gender neutral.
yeah,
Um, like I have started wearing suits more when I have to dress up nice now.
mm-hmm,
And I do like that better than dresses, I've found. But still, it's definitely much more mask.
mm-hmm,
Um, I mean, you can find like women's suits, but even then, it's kind of like a lot more femme, and
yeah,
it only
yeah.
works for certain occasions.
Yeah, and it's interesting
Uh,
because like recently I was having a conversation with Chad about like what is like formal wear for men that is not too formal. Because like I dress with like graphic t-shirts every day. And I'm like 25. I'm going to be 25. I'm going to be an adult. I cannot still dress like a kid, but it's like but
who
that's like my
cares?
expression and like and
I
look,
love
yeah,
graphic t-shirts. I have
yeah,
a caring for your demon cat on one right now. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, and
Uh,
it's like who cares? Like all of this is just like societal pressure bullshit,
mhm.
and it's not just like like your gender, but like certain ages should present a certain way, and it's also like
Yeah.
bullshit, you know? Yeah.
I mean, to work right now, I usually wear. I have like some not quite dress pants, but they're like khaki, like that type of
Mm-hmm.
formality. I'll wear like usually a flannel shirt with them. Uh, so like that's gonna be like definitely not suit level of
Mm-hmm.
formality, but
Yeah.
it's a step up from the
Yeah.
shorts and a graphic tee that I'm wearing now. So that's my word of advice to you.
Oh, that
I
is
wear
true.
button down, like short sleeve button downs when it's a little bit warmer out.
Yeah, I need to get flannels, cause
Mhm.
but sometimes I think is this lesbian appropriation? Just kidding.
If anyone asks, uh, I went to college in New Hampshire. Everyone wears flannels there.
Look, I have a lesbian friend. I can wear this.
Hmm.
But
She said it's
uh,
okay.
now going back to your more about queerness, like, how's your? I mean, you've mentioned that your family was pretty progressive or liberal, but how was their reaction to you being not just non-binary, but also like ROAs?
Um, so I mean, I guess I can start with non-binary. They've been pretty good for
Hmm.
the most part. At least my immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
they get it for the most part. I mean, my sibling is also non-binary,
Yeah,
and
now they are kind
out
of
to
forced
them,
to get it, even if they don't
yeah,
want.
they're kind of forced to get it if they want to have kids at all, basically. um, so they've been working hard with pronouns for
Mhm.
both of us. They're not 100%.
Mhm.
My sibling has been great about all of it. Like, they get it.
Mhm.
But in terms of our parents, like, for both of us, they try. When I told them that I was starting T, my dad actually got excited. So I kind of get the vibe of
Interesting.
he probably wanted a son, but never said anything about it because, like,
Uh-huh.
obviously he doesn't want to be
Uh-huh.
ungrateful for having daughters. Uh,
Okay.
so he was pretty excited about that.
And where you're like, but Dad, I'm not going to play football.
Oh, he doesn't like football either.
Oh,
He
nice.
loves
Okay.
fishing. I'm the one who would do that with him, though.
No.
I got him into femboy fishing also. He loves that Instagram page.
Hello. Oh my god.
It's like enough of
Mhm.
his interest and also queer stuff that he's able to go all in and
Oh my god.
so he loves that. What else? But yeah, he was definitely confused at first because I came out after I was already out as Airways.
Mhm.
Because his first question when I came out as non-binary was, "Oh, so are you still asexual?"
Interesting.
Because, like, it shows you how little knowledge he had, and he's
Yeah.
definitely gotten more since then.
Mhm.
Out of my parents, though, my mom has definitely been the one to go out of her way to do research and
Mm.
make sure she learns more. But also, my dad is the one who is more willing to just sort of like experiment with language to find
Mhm.
non-binary terms for things, whereas my mom is like trying to work within a lot of the time binary frameworks,
Oh,
like
interesting.
to just sort of like what do you call your adult child if they're non-binary, like that sort of thing. Like, am I their daughter or their son, or do you like,
Their
or do you just say
child.
child?
You just said
Yeah,
it,
but like
mom.
child makes it seem
Oh,
like I'm
like,
a
oh,
minor,
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I'm an adult. I'm out on my own. I'm living my own life. Uh,
Interesting. Oh, that
so
is true.
yeah, so like son or daughter though isn't
Mhm.
really like age defined typically.
Mhm.
And offspring, someone suggested in chat, sounds really impersonal.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like you just
So like my dad is much more willing to like
Mhm.
take risks in that regard and like
Mhm.
make up new words, whereas my
Yeah.
mom is out like what out of these options would work best.
Mhm.
Sometimes settling on daughter, sometimes not.
Mhm.
Whereas daughter will technically misgender me.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that in terms of
Mhm.
differences with my parents. Um, in terms of coming out as Airways, I came out for the first time as just asexual, which
Mhm.
is why my dad worded that question.
Mhm.
Um, so my mom was the one I came out to first in my
Mhm.
immediate family. Her first reaction wasn't great because there isn't much knowledge on asexuality.
Mhm.
And I think this is part of the reason why she's the one who is much more invested in doing that research and learning.
Mhm.
Um, because her first reaction was, "Oh, well, we can take you to a doctor. We can get your hormones checked. We can get
Oh,
whatever."
wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was like, "No, I'm not going to conversion therapy. That's not how this is going." because also I was 20 by then. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever like doctor
Mm-hmm.
appointment they wanted me to do, I would have to consent to it because I was a
Mm-hmm.
legal adult by that point. So obviously that never happened. And basically she did a lot more reading since then and knows that that is very much not what you want to say to someone who is coming out to you as ace.
I mean,
My
or as
dad's
anything, to be honest. Like,
yeah. My dad's reaction, which kind of goes along with what I was talking about before with gender, like he didn't really know what to say at all. So he asked a lot of questions. A lot of them were like, I guess you could call them stupid questions, but I mean, he's trying to figure things out.
Yeah, like he
He's
didn't know
clueless.
better, and he was like genuinely trying to
Yeah,
understand,
and they weren't like
from his
offensive
perspective.
questions,
Yeah.
really. They were like stupid questions, you know. Um, so that was more my experience with my parents. Friends was a lot easier because my friends, for the most part, especially by the time I was 20, were also mostly queer. So like they knew what was up. Let's see. I am also out to extended family as well at this point. Most of them are pretty understanding about it. My mom's whole side of the family is pretty accepting. And this includes my grandmother who died this past fall, who was
My
how old was
condolences.
she was 94.
Wow.
But yeah, she got it pretty quickly. So yeah, if someone uses age as an excuse, my 94-year-old grandmother got it. My other grandparents on my dad's side are struggling more, but they're trying. Part of it is also my grandfather he's like mostly blind and mostly deaf, so it's hard for him to like obtain any information.
He didn't hear it.
Yeah, or he didn't read it either.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
He probably doesn't even know you exist.
He definitely knows I exist. He's taken care of me plenty of times when I was little.
Okay. No,
but, yeah.
Interesting. Oh, it is interesting because like that's been like that. I've seen like a trend in the interviews of how like the mom is the one that like has mm, the most trouble with getting that their kid is queer. And I was talking with Finn about this, and he mentioned that maybe it's because like mothers have like they had us inside of them for 9 months, and it's like, oh, I don't know you as well as I thought, and that kind of shocked. But I don't know, like, what do you think is that about? Because
I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I know one of the things that my dad said the first time I came out was that he already knew that I was not straight in some way. He didn't know what asexuality was. So obviously he didn't know it was that, but he knew that I wasn't straight, even though I hadn't said anything. And I mean, my parents are still together, so I mean, they probably had conversations about this. But yeah, it was always kind of interesting when I would come home from college, because this was like, what year was this in college? I think it was a junior. Yeah, I would have been a college junior. So I would have been through college like 2 full years, like 2.5 at that point. And like most of the time I'd come home and I mean, like, I was single most of the time I was in college. Like, there was the boyfriend who I had my senior year of high school who I broke up with October of freshman year. So, like, it was like a month and a half
Okay.
that I was not single in college. So, yeah. I would come home for break and my parents would ask me if there was anyone I was interested in. Mostly would be like, oh, are there any guys you're interested in? And then my dad would always add on, oh, are there any girls you're interested in? When I would say, no, I'm not interested in any guys. So like he definitely
Interesting.
had some inclination and he was already like not getting it, but also getting it more. So I don't know what that was about. And I don't have any theory. Maybe it's more like my mom didn't want to make assumptions, but like by doing so, she was inherently making one.
Yeah.
I also know
Interesting.
the first time my sibling came out, they came out as gay when they were really young. I think they were like 14. The first time they came out, they've changed labels a few times since then, but they were pretty young. And this was the first time either of us had come out. So like going into my own coming out, I had that already behind me that my parents were accepting of them.
Oh, okay.
So there was that assurance, but also I know my mom's reaction that she talked about after, like, to me and my dad after my sibling came out was that she was just worried that they would face more oppression, possibly more violence as a result of their queer identity, which I think might be part of it too, like being more fearful for your kid, like especially as a white person, like that kind of marginalization and oppression isn't really something that my family's had to deal with. So that identity, like that queer identity, is where that's probably going to come from. I mean, like potentially living life as a woman, you might experience something. Like there's plenty of sexual violence that even straight women face, straight white women at that. But that's going to go up quite a lot if you are identifying as any kind of queer.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
So that's my theory. I know my dad tends to worry about that kind of thing too, and also tends to not have as much faith in me as he probably should in a lot of cases. But I feel like it's definitely something that we associate more with mothers, that type of concern for your kids.
Yeah. Then going back to you, do you have any like non-familiar relationships that go beyond platonic? And if yes, how do they look like?
I mean, that's kind of the like non-platonic relationships beyond family. It's kind of difficult to nail down because it can be so many different things. I mean, like I kind of want to just say no, but it's also kind of like, do I have friendships that are like closely related? Like that go beyond that, I guess. I don't know. But then also there's like I mentioned that I teach as well, and I definitely do love my students, and not in a platonic or familiar way or romantic or sexual. Definitely not that. But I guess it's probably closer to like parental, but yeah, that's also something that's difficult to nail down. So I mean, I guess there's that, which I guess is something that a lot of people won't really think about when thinking about relationships in this way.
Yeah. No, that is fair. I mean, yeah, like you're making a good point of like, because I was thinking, like
QPRs probably.
Oh, what is QPR?
queer platonic relationships.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that, or like with full transparency, I was thinking like, do they have like kind of like a non-romantic romantic relationship basically? But I don't
That's
know how to
usually how
ask
people
that.
think of QPRs.
Hmm. Yeah, but I didn't know how else to word it. But yeah, it makes sense that you would have like those other relationships like with your students or with like very close friends that are like almost familial
Yeah.
basically, you know? Like they feel like yeah. Oh, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No.
Oh, but yeah. Um oh, but that's interesting. Um when did okay, now going back to politics, when would you say you began to be more politically conscious? And how has your queerness influenced those politics?
Okay. So I started getting a lot more political consciousness as a teenager.
Hmm.
Um, so like I guess early teens, I was really like learning what that meant. And then as I got to be like 16, 17 or so, I started getting a lot more invested in following politics. Like for instance, I remember following like early BLM movement, like pre 2020,
Mm-hmm.
like Trayvon Martin and
Mm.
those sorts of ones. Um, like as a teenager, like 16, 17 years old. Um, I remember following like different states in the US um,
Like the races?
granting gay marriage,
Oh, got it.
and then that Supreme Court decision. I was 18 by that time, though.
Hmm.
So, like, I was starting to get more involved. I was definitely still more liberal at that point, just because I hadn't really found a way outside of that yet.
Hmm.
Um, and let's see. Yeah, and then Bernie Sanders ran for president when I was 18 for the first time. He was running for the first time, not that I've been 18 more than one time.
Yeah.
um, so I was pretty invested in that, and that got me interested in more left-leaning ideas. I was already kind of like, in terms of like leftism, I was the kid who was like, wait, why is communism bad? Wait, what's wrong with the USSR? When I was first learning about that in like middle
Same.
school. And I never got a straight answer. So I would like ironically, unironically, like communism, but I didn't know enough about it because no one ever
Yeah.
told me anything about it to like actually support it or actually talk about it in
Hmm.
any meaningful way.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was that. And then I got into college and I actually read some Marx. Um,
Interesting.
and I was like, wow, this guy's great. He's making all of these great points. I agree with this.
What were you reading? What did they make you read?
I read some of Marx's early writing. Wait, I still have my books that I can grab them. 1 second.
Oh my god, yeah. Also, JC Ramirez, I've been 17 for 7 years for 7 years in a row, so I feel you. Sometimes I tell people that I'm still 17 and they believe me. But it's weird because like some people will tell me, "Oh, you look like 30," and others like I look 16, and I never know what to do.
Okay. So I have some books. There's After Capitalism.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Oh, like about Marx.
more like about this is like this guy's interpretation of
Hmm.
Marxism more than
Oh,
anything else.
interesting.
I've kind of been meaning to go back and look at these actually.
Hmm.
Because like I remember them a little bit, but I'd be interested to know how I take them now that I know a lot more about leftist theory. So like there's this one. Apparently this guy was like my professor's professor also, which is really interesting.
Oh wow, interesting. Wait, what
and
class
then
was this? Was this like sociology?
no, so I read this in social and political
Oh,
philosophy.
interesting. Oh wow.
And then I read both of these when I took economic philosophy.
Oh, interesting. The world. Oh, interesting. Oh, what did you
So
study in college?
I studied creative writing and I minored in philosophy, and I also minored in education.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did you end up being a teacher? Got it.
Yeah.
You were like, and I need something to work.
Yeah. I was like, I love this creative writing and this philosophy. This is so great. I was like, wait.
I mean, to be fair,
actually
it's not like
tried-
there are not jobs that come
Yeah.
out by studying that, but still, you know.
Mhm. And I tried teaching over one of the summers and I enjoyed that. So I added that education minor, did it really fast at the end.
Interesting. And how did your like online leftist pipeline start?
Oh, my online leftist?
Yeah. Like did it start with Bosch?
Well, not exactly. So let's see. So when I was in college, I wasn't really online that much. So I was a little bit less politically engaged than I probably should have been. But as I was finishing up college, one of my friends actually recommended ContraPoints to me. So I was like, oh, I'll check that out. So I watched some of her videos. This was like early ContraPoints. She had like, yeah, not like early, but like it was pretty early. This was 2019 because that's when I graduated.
Like she was already transitioning.
Yeah, she was already transitioning at this point.
Yeah.
It was like right before she deleted her pre-transition videos.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I have seen some of those, but they do not exist on the internet anymore, to my knowledge.
I mean, I would guess that they're on their
fair.
Patreon, but yeah. Still.
Possibly, I don't know.
Look.
But yeah, I was watching her. I found a few other people around that same time. Like Philosophy Tube, I found not too long after. Who else was I watching? But yeah, there's a few other, like, especially like the bigger YouTubers at that time. And then I got out of college and I started watching more YouTube and being online a little bit more again. And yeah, and then I started working. And especially when I first started working, I had moved to a new place. I didn't really have any kind of social circle there yet. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going online. So I went online, I watched quite a lot of YouTube, and that is eventually how I found Vosh.
Oh, interesting.
And then eventually we get to 2020, which I graduated in 2019. Not too many months later, we had a pandemic.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
I forgot.
Oh, you did too? It was almost like it was global.
I mean, some people are still in the pandemic, so, you know.
I mean, yeah, I still mask. A lot of people don't.
Oh yeah, like I know that in the US there have been like there's still like COVID is popping up again and again, and it's like,
yeah, there's like
how are
so
people
many
not talking about
anti-vaxxers
it?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take precautions if other people won't, is kind of my thought process here. But yeah, so and yeah, I was watching more and more YouTube, and I started watching Vosh. And then I was watching him a decent amount, and I was watching Xander Hall too, who has now blocked me, by the way, on
Why?
Twitter.
I feel like
No idea.
watching Stan is worse than watching Ian. Okay, but
What
no,
I
but to
liked
be
about it,
fair, yeah, but to be fair, like he was identifying as a socialist back then, because I remember he announced that he dropped
yeah,
the socialist label.
yeah.
So
Yeah, he dropped that label very soon before I stopped watching him, actually.
oh,
What
interesting.
I liked about watching his channel, though, was that it was smaller. So,
Mm.
like, it was
Mm-hmm.
like you could talk to the
Yeah.
streamer and, like, talk to people in chat and, like, actually build relationships. Whereas Vosh's chat, okay, you can send an emote. That's
Yeah.
cool. But, like,
Ooh, a
trying to
combo.
have an actual conversation with anyone, the streamer
Yeah.
or just another chatter, is
Oh,
virtually
interesting.
impossible. So that's what I liked about Xander Hall,
Mm-hmm.
who, yes, has now blocked me on Twitter. No idea why.
Your tankiness.
I don't even know. Like, I don't even post on Twitter that much, to be honest,
Interesting. Oh,
especially
that's
these days.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and I was watching Vosh, and then I got into watching, and then I was like, oh, I should make Twitch, because I started wanting to watch more streamers,
Mm-hmm.
and Twitch is where you find the streamers. So I followed some people
R.I.P.
who I had
Twitch.
heard of through them.
Mm-hmm.
So Denims was one of them, and I think there were a couple others that I had heard of. I think
Mm-hmm.
Lumi might have even been on that list. I don't remember why I originally followed them, but it might have been
Mm-hmm.
just from my original follow, just like following streamers that I had heard of.
Got it.
So I started watching Denims, and I really like Denims. I still really like Denims.
I
Uh,
feel like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I started watching her, and then I started watching other people through her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, streaming can be so much better.
Interesting. I want to ask, like, what did you find in Ian that, yeah, what did you find in Ian? Because, like by the time I learned who he was, like I was already like pretty past him ideologically, and also like he gave me bad vibes. But like that's obviously like personal. But
Yeah.
yeah, like so like I always wondering like it's like I can know like in theory or like on paper what people see, but I've never like properly asked someone who used to watch him. You know?
Yeah. So, like, what I liked about watching him, he would uh, talk about stuff that interested him. He talked on a lot of that was overlapping with stuff that interested me. A lot of that was current events that I was trying to keep up with as well.
Mm.
Um, what else? There was, and sometimes he would debate crazy conservatives, and it was sometimes funny,
Mm.
sometimes
Oh yeah.
educational, just to see how these people think, and like watch him like shut them down
Yeah,
was
no,
always,
like people
yeah.
definitely like underestimate how entertaining debates are, and it's like
Oh yeah.
we can still acknowledge how like
Hmm.
problematic having debates with
Yeah.
right wingers is, but once you are watching people having
Hmm.
those debates, it's like you kind of
I can't look away.
can't
This is
not.
great.
Yeah, it's
It's like
like
peak entertainment, you know?
yeah, and it's and again like it is bad, but also it is entertaining.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I hadn't really been exposed to enough ideas about why it could be bad. I
Mhm.
hadn't really heard anything explaining why it could be bad.
Yeah,
So I was like, yeah, this is great.
yeah.
And especially, like, it was right around an election year. He was following a lot of politics.
Mm,
There's a pandemic. He was following a lot of that too. Um, so yeah, it was good to see that. And then he talked about other stuff other times. And it's going to be, especially if you're following news, watching a streamer is going to
mm-hmm.
be much more like day to day than watching a video essayist, for instance. Because like if you're making a good video
And it's
essay,
much more palatable than watching the news.
Exactly.
You know?
Like you're watching someone who's like kind of like you, who has a good understanding of things and wants to talk through what you're getting into. But it's not like you're watching like a reporter or a news anchor or anything. You're watching someone who has much more similar politics to you as well. Because like even still, I would probably argue that both of us probably have a more similar political ideology to Vosh than to the average, or even some of the more left-leaning. Liberal news anchors. Yeah, like Vosh is going to be closer on the political spectrum to either of us than her. So there was that, and and I was still working through the like identifying as a communist, socialist, whatever. Like still working on that labeling as well. But yeah, it was entertaining. It was also like somewhat educational, like not the most it can be. But like, it's more like day-to-day relevant than the average video essayist, because in order to do a good video essay, you need to spend time putting that together. But that being said, I was also watching a lot of video essayists. And then I started watching a lot more streamers on Twitch.
You had mentioned that like when you were in school, you were like, but Stalin did nothing wrong.
Okay, I wasn't saying that. Because like
I know.
I had heard plenty of people say, "Oh, well, Stalin's worse than Hitler because he killed like so many people." Like genocides were actually a thing in the USSR. But it was like, okay, but like, why are you saying he's worse than Hitler? Like, I don't get that part of it.
Ringing my door.
Okay.
Okay, give me 2 seconds because someone came in that I didn't expect, but I'll be back in literally a minute.
Okay. How are we doing, chat? Hope you're doing good. Also, hi, Seaweed. So you said the gayest relationships of all are platonic ones. This is true. That's how you know they're the good ones. But yeah. Yeah, these are the books that I read in college that have to do with communism. These are like Marx being young. We got like philosophers, great economic thinkers. I could.
Okay, I'm back.
Marx right
I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
I forgot what I wanted to ask.
I think we were talking about how I got into streaming.
Oh. You had mentioned that you always had asked about like you never fully took in the propaganda of the Soviet Union bad, basically.
Yeah, because a lot of the time it was just like, oh, well, it's bad. I'm not going to give you a reason. And if you ask, I can't tell you, basically. So I was like, okay, I mean, like, I guess, but you're not giving me a good reason. So I'm going to be like really, really critical about anything anyone says, you know?
And how did you basically like navigate those spaces with that kind of thinking? You know what I mean?
I mean, at a certain point, I just got to this point of like, oh, people aren't just going to tell me why it's bad, so I'm not going to ask. I'm just gonna not say anything.
Mm-hmm. And interesting. And at what point do you like kind of like how to explain it? Because it's like I want to know your perspective, but also it's like because had like kind of a similar journey, I kind of already know, but at the same time, I don't know how to like ask you about your perspective because like in school in high school, I was taught about like I was also taught like the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany like within the same unit of totalitarian leaders, but also like the teacher would be like, yeah, and in the Soviet Union they gave free education, and I'm like, how is that bad?
We didn't even learn like that many details. Like I remember learning, oh, the Soviet Union, everyone made the same wage, which also isn't true. But
Mhm.
like I was like, why is that a bad thing? Because I mean, again, this is
Mhm.
me. I mentioned Connecticut, #1 in economic inequality. I had
Mhm.
seen like very rich people next to very poor people. Like that was the environment that I grew up
Mhm.
in. So I was seeing like people are really poor. If everyone makes the same wage, then it presumably a living one. That's a good thing. People are able to get by.
Yeah. And so how like what made you basically dive into theory?
I mean, I mentioned I'd read some Marx
Mhm.
already in some philosophy classes, and I had really enjoyed that. So I'd been doing that for a little bit, and I was like, I want to do more of this. And especially once I graduated, I was missing that.
Mhm.
Uh, and my first year teaching, I definitely didn't have the time. I didn't really have the time to sleep, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
It was bad.
Yeah, because you were
Um,
teaching Japanese
I was
or
teaching
something
English
along
to
with.
Japanese students.
Yeah. So like
Um,
your schedule was like Japan time zone, basically.
no. So when I first started, so this was a boarding school. So they
Mm-hmm.
hired me at the end of August. So like I was a desperation hire, and also on my end I was a
Mm-hmm.
desperation hire. They hired me to teach one class short of a full-time teaching schedule,
Oh, okay.
and work in the dorms as a first-time teacher. And any teacher will tell you, if it's your first year teaching, you're going to be exhausted no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that with like even more of a schedule.
Oh, got
Like
it.
consistently, I was working like 8 a.m. until like 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get like maybe a little bit of time off in the middle of the day, here and
Oh,
there.
interesting.
Um, but yeah, it was not a good schedule.
And somehow you still managed to be an active chatter in Denim's chat.
Okay, that was the year before I did that.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
got it.
so I would like put YouTube on when I was working. That was
Got
more
it.
that year.
Got it.
And then the pandemic hit. And that was honestly, at that point in my life, it was the best thing that had happened to me because, uh, yeah, I didn't have any friends in the area because I had no time,
Mm-hmm.
but no one else was able to see their friends either. So it didn't really matter anymore.
Mm.
Uh, and I mentioned I was working in a dorm. Well, my job was reduced to almost nothing, or that part of my job was reduced to almost nothing because I was now doing stuff online. Like they left, they
Mm-hmm.
went to Japan, and sure, I was teaching nights, but I didn't need to be up in the morning anymore.
Oh,
So I could sleep in
interesting.
as late as I wanted. I had time during the day to get my work done, to get other things that I needed to do done. And then at night, I would teach.
Mm.
And I much preferred that schedule. Honestly, I was struggling how I would get through those last couple months of the year, to be honest. Because there was also a kid who was trying to get me to quit, like bully me into quitting. I almost got him expelled, in part
Hello?
because everything was documented because it was online at the point that it really like came to a
Oh,
head.
wow. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like a kid you were teaching was bullying
yeah,
you?
yeah,
I mean, it's like, it's kind of weird, but also like now that I think back, yeah, there were kids bullying teachers, but
yeah. And I was like an easy target as a 22-year-old, or I guess I was 23 by the end of the year, but like
Mhm.
first year teaching seniors, so they're
Oh,
like 18.
wow.
Yeah,
Menaces for society. That's what you
yeah.
were
And this one
teaching.
especially was that. And
Mm-hmm.
especially at this school, many of them were very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also part of what radicalized me. Like during that year, not only was I working way too many hours every week and making like okay, I was making like a solid full time salary and not having to pay rent, so
Mm-hmm.
that was nice. Like it wasn't a high salary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I was working way too much. I was exhausted all the time. Uh, and like the like okay, so in order to send your kids to a private school, not just a boarding school, but an
Mm-hmm.
international one where you need to fly
Yeah.
like internationally halfway around the world multiple times a year, you have to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Uh, so like
Oh,
these were the kids
wow.
that I was working with. So like this kid, there was a decent
Mm-hmm.
amount of that privilege going into his behavior, I think.
Mm.
Uh, and again, many of them were very nice. And there were a few that were more like upper middle class, like lower upper class, like that range,
Mm-hmm.
who were like, I knew their families were like barely making ends meet, sending them here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, there were a lot who like somehow still had way too much money for like expensive everything that they would just throw in the
Oh,
trash at the end of the
wow.
school year.
Interesting.
I
So,
did
like,
inherit a decent amount of nice things from them over the years.
wait, how?
Like they would just leave it in their dorm room, and I'd be like, "All right, either I'm taking this or this is going in the trash." So I'm taking it. I can use this. Let's see. I got a vacuum cleaner at one point, which she
Really?
wasn't
So,
supposed to have.
wait, what?
But
Why not?
because she was a student in a dorm,
And she couldn't clean?
I don't know. But apparently she wasn't supposed to have it. So I'm like, I'm not going to fault her for this. I'm just going to take this since she's leaving it here.
Yeah. Sorry, it's like I recently wanted
I'm
to.
not getting her in trouble. She was
I
also
was
one of the very nice ones.
recently like looking into buying a vacuum and I was like, oh, they're like more expensive than I thought. Got it. And I'm not
Yeah.
buying one
And
now. So
like,
I'm like,
I still use
yeah,
that thing.
take it.
It vacuums up Juniper's hair so well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Oh, what else did you find?
Let's see. That was my best find,
Oh, got it.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I was like, some
let's see.
jewelry maybe.
I don't think they left any jewelry. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. What else did I get? I got like I mean, the first year there was a decent amount of stuff. I got some nice tea, uh, some of which
Nice.
I'm still working my way through.
What? That much tea?
Yeah.
Wow. And now into the final question, like, why did you decide to start streaming? And I want to ask, like, how does streaming fit into your queerness, but like, you stream about your queerness, basically.
Mhm. So I first decided to stream. This was a little bit after I had joined Twitch. I was pretty involved in a decent amount of communities at this point. And a streamer who unfortunately hasn't been streaming anymore, Anna the Nugget. She's been living her life. She was in New York, and I was like, hey, I live in New York. We could meet up. And we did. She didn't stream because her phone died.
Oh, wow.
But we did meet. And so we were talking about stuff, and I was talking about I was Ace, and she mentioned she was Demi, but didn't know a lot about that identity. And she said I should stream because I know a lot about this, because I do.
Interesting.
Because I was the kind of person who was like, well, I can't come out as this and like decide that I'm this until I know this identity really, really well, and I'm 100% certain that I am. So I did a ton of research before even like coming out to myself fully. So I already knew a lot about it, and I've learned a little bit more since streaming, which is cool. So she convinced me to start streaming, and I've been doing that. I didn't start right away because I was working, because this was the year that all of my students at my law school had like finally come back to campus, like fully. So I was like, okay, I have a break, because the way they had set up the school year, they only did this for 2 years. But the way they had the school year set up at this point was they had Thanksgiving through New Year's off. So it was like, I'm going to start in that window and see how it goes. So, yeah, so I started at the end of November that year. And I streamed fairly consistently in that time. And then it kind of went, and then the next semester started in January, or like trimester, I guess. So the trimester started in January, and I got more into streaming, except I didn't have time. So it was just sort of like, whenever I have time off, I'm going to stream. And then we hit spring break. And then I had like a schedule that I made for myself that break, because I had 3 weeks for that spring break. So I was streaming really, really consistently then. I was streaming like 5 days a week for like 3 to 5 hours at a stretch, consistently. And so like I grew a ton in that period. Yeah. And then I had to do school again, so it was a lot more of stream when I can. And then that summer I was moving, so it was another stream when I can.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like, it was rough.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I loved, I mean, I still love your streams, but I remember when you first started, like, I would literally learn something new every single stream. Because you were talking, I mean, to be fair, I didn't know that much about asexuality.
You know more, so these are things that you have a better understanding of now.
Yeah, and like, you truly, like I remember, because I had heard of demisexuality and I understood it, but you basically taught me that is part of the ace spectrum, and I was like, oh wow, like mind blown, because it's like, yeah, like it like that. You
was
know?
actually reading a Twitter thread recently about demisexuality. That was interesting. Kind of like the idea of we don't really frame it
Mm-hmm.
like on its own. We don't really frame it as asexuality,
Mm-hmm.
and we should. Like
Mm.
like the demisexual experience is going to be very, very similar to an ace one,
Then
like
an
never
aloe
experiencing
one.
sexual
Yeah.
attraction.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
it's
true.
typically going to be like that. Uh, so it would make more sense to frame it from that direction. But it's hard to really like, especially like an independent demisexual definition.
Mm.
Like, how do you even word that?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the time when I talk about it on my stream, it's more like, oh yeah, asexuality is a spectrum. This is how some people might be a part of that
Mm-hmm.
spectrum, and I can describe demisexuality that way.
Yeah. I guess you don't have to get you can get as specific or as generic and broad as you want, but like where are you within the A spectrum?
Um, I mean, I just use arrow ace to describe me.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as I'm aware, I've never experienced sexual or romantic attraction to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am, and that isn't going to be the case for
Mm-hmm.
everyone on the A spectrum or the arrow spectrum. Um, but yeah, that's more or less my experience.
But you're not like repulsed.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't use that. I mean that's also like a different spectrum,
Oh,
separate
interesting.
from like uh if or how much you might experience sexual or romantic attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're sex repulsed, the like theoretically you could be allosexual and sex repulsed as well. Um, Oftentimes it's going to be like because of trauma or something.
Oh, got it. Yeah, oh, interesting.
Um,
See, like I learned so much from you.
but yeah, it isn't necessarily something that should be seen as a bad thing because of that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. But yeah,
No, yeah.
um,
Oh,
but yeah, sex
interesting.
repulsion is like that, like attitudes towards sex or attitudes towards
Mm-hmm.
romance, which people don't talk about quite as much. I don't even talk about it that much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, these things are just a separate spectrum.
Critical ace theory, everyone.
So many spectrums.
No, yeah, cause like thanks to you, like I've learned to like view things in the romantic spectrum differently, and like
Mhm.
learning about, and that has also helped me like properly understand sex, as in like gender and sex, like that, the sex spectrum and all of that, and like watching videos explain that, like I wouldn't have understood videos where they explain the sex spectrum if I hadn't had like your information of like understanding like the spectrums of everything, and like there are
Mhm.
different like categories basically,
Mhm.
so yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, even those categories that
uh
we talk about, these are like, uh,
mhm,
more than anything else, these are like umbrella terms over like part of this, like a specific part of the spectrum.
yeah,
So like asexuality, for instance, like okay, maybe you experience sexual attraction sometimes, but it's not enough to consider yourself allosexual in any direction.
mhm,
Um, and like, I mean, you can be gay and like experience uh rare, occasional attraction to someone of a different gender. That doesn't make
yeah,
you less gay necessarily. I mean, some people might still call themselves bi, but that's up to them to
mhm,
choose the label that they want.
yeah, no, yeah, critical A theory, everyone, please, no, yeah, like applause, because you don't get how much I love you and your channel and the content that you've made and like everything that I've learned. So I am really, really appreciative and grateful that you've come to my channel, even if it's my YouTube channel. Because I loved having you here, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Of course, I'm glad I've been able to be helpful for you.
Yeah, no,
That's been my
like,
goal.
yeah. And as always, like, I think ace people, but not just ace people, arrow ace people are superhumans, are gods. They are above mere mortal humanity. You are an example of what we should be all aspiring to be. You are like sex. Oh, what's that? I don't need that.
Exactly.
Romance, disgusting.
No, don't need that.
You'd rather eat cake, literally. Like,
Exactly. And I'm not on Twitch, so you can't use that emote. If you want to use my rather eat cake emote, you got to either be on Discord or Twitch.
yeah.
It is my
So
Discord.
promote
So,
yourself. Do you have anything you would like to promote?
yeah. So my most common, or I guess the easiest way to find me on social media is my Twitch.
Mhm.
If you want to contact me, it would be Discord. My Twitch is Critical Ace Theory. I have a Discord as well, like a Discord channel, which is fun. It's not the most active, but it's the easiest way if you want to like talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter, but I don't post there very much anymore, just because it's going to hell. Thanks to we all know. Let's see. That's C Ace Theory though, because Critical Ace Theory is too many characters.
Oh wow. And is there anything you would like to leave people with in regards to asexuality? You know, a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but like, something you would like
Um,
everyone to know.
I mean, I think the most important thing that people understand, I think probably by now most people who watch me and probably who watch you as well, and if
Hmm.
not, maybe they know by now based on our conversation, like asexuality is very much real. It's something that many people do experience. It's also something that people uh, that is queer and people can be oppressed for it as well.
Hmm.
Um, like there are statistics there that we've been over on my stream before. Uh, but yeah, it's yeah, definitely something worth researching and looking into if you aren't too familiar with it, even if you know that you're not ace yourself. Because I find that a lot of people a lot of people don't really have a great understanding of it. Uh,
Yeah.
even in queer circles.
It's like I remember you explaining basically how like marriage, not like marriage is oppression, but basically how in the US
Marriage
when
can
you
be
marry
like
people, like you get like a tax cut
benefits
basically, and ace
more than tax
people,
cuts, yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
And if
like,
you're not interested in getting married
mhm,
ever, then systemically you're just not going to uh,
get those
be able to
benefits.
take advantage of those
Hmm.
benefits that are just sort of assumed that all adults will get someday.
Yeah. And I was
And that's
like,
kind of how
again,
they're designed.
that blew my mind because I was like, I hadn't even thought about that. I was like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I don't think
true.
most people do.
Yeah. So yeah, be sure to follow them in every platform, force them to tweet more or blue sky more when they get a kid or
Honestly,
whatever.
I've been migrating more to Tumblr
Oh my
since
god,
Twitter's been going to
yes.
shit. I'm Critical Ace Theory on there too. If you have Tumblr, I've been posting a decent amount, so maybe that's another good place to find me.
Nice. So yeah,
There's
thank you
also my
very much.
YouTube critical ace
Oh,
theory,
yeah, I
which is where
shared
I'm
your
streaming
YouTube.
now.
Yeah, I shared your YouTube also, so people could also be watching the stream from your perspective.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
but yeah, thank you very much for coming here. I appreciated having you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Ah! Okay. Let's fucking go. Okay. How are y'all doing? I hope you enjoyed the stream. I feel like we didn't get us. I feel like it was a solid interview. Like, yeah, yeah. Um, how are y'all doing? Welcome to everyone who came into the stream in the middle of the interview. Um, I hope you uh, enjoyed it. I was a bit late today for stream because I mean I had mentioned it earlier, but yesterday I had basically like a mini panic attack, and I kind of like ate a lot of snacks very late yesterday, and so my tummy was like, you shouldn't have eaten that much yesterday, and so I woke up and I was like going to the bathroom. But yeah. Uh Also, yeah, be sure to follow them on Twitch and subscribe to their YouTube channel just in case. But yeah. Thank you for linking everything, Dorian and Sam. I appreciate it. I got married and ended up having to pay 5K or more in taxes. You need to be married and have kids. Oh, interesting. I mean, yeah. But yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Um I am tired. Too much money, I guess. Oh, sorry. Wait, what did you? You had mentioned that you wanted me to call you a certain name, JC. I mean, what do you mean? You are your. And people just think that default to she. I get misgendered all the time. Oh, interesting. You had mentioned that you wanted to be called not just JC. Or did someone else mention that? Oh, call me Steel. No relation. Yes. Steel. Got it. But yeah. Oh. Okay. Look. I'm going to be completely honest. Regardless of the viewership, I've managed to have like a really good time today. I can find it's on the Discord. In Discord I posted it. This should be their channel if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, be sure to subscribe to be the 9th and 10th subscriber. So yeah, I'll be editing this bot. Well, I need to edit multiple bots because um I need to because I have them and I need to upload them. But yeah, I've told you the right pronunciation before, and you've always add an extra e. Steel. Oh, Steely Lungs. But your name is still E Lungs. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. I'm like I'm like excited, but looking at my phone. But there's an E there. Like, still E lungs. Yeah. Oh my god. Ah, hi. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Oh my god, I know someone. But yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know what to do. Cause if I were on Twitch, I could raid. But yeah. Wait. Who is live? Let's raid someone anyway. Is there someone live on Twitch? I don't think Larry's live. No, wait. But yeah. Um, I will be setting up. Okay, if you weren't here yesterday, I made a huge announcement at the beginning of the stream, and I'm basically like moving to another country. And so I think starting July, the first week of July, I'll have a big fundraising stream. So yeah. Thank you, March. I mean, Toist. But don't go. Larry Big. Oh, is Larry still live? Let's read Larry. RIP subs raid messaging. Oh yeah, but yeah, I hope it's China. It's not China. It's Australia. RIP. Oh my god, I think we can still raid. Is that good? It does work. It does work. I think we can add the com raid. I mean, this is the only raid because there are no like exclusive emotes yet. But yeah. I just because my regular Twitch updates are shared. Oh my god. But yeah. Can I the downfall of YouTube comments is that they're harder to copy and paste. To copy more than anything. But yeah. But yeah, okay, let's rate Larry even if there are only 5 people here. But yeah, go to Larry's channel and spam steps raid. So yeah. I'll see you tomorrow hopefully. But yeah, I love you all. Bye.